Every day, we are facing social issues. Issues that all of us are part of. Issues that we have to be concerned. That is why we have this program, Issue 101. We tackle issues that affect our localities. Issues that all of us should participate. Issues that also affect our environment and communities. And issues that affect our government. Issue 101. Here is your host, Issue 101. You're with Senior Simon. Senior Simon. Senior Simon. Issue 101.
Yes, good day everyone. Welcome to another edition of Issue 101. Today is Tuesday, June 20, 2020. That's a lot of 2020. It's Tuesday, June 20, 2023. Yes, welcome to another episode of our program.
Issue 101.
With yours truly,
Senior Simon.
a firm and courageous confidant of truth, an agent of light and clarity to darken and unclear controversies in our society and its people. Welcome everyone. And for today's episode of Issue 101, we are going to discuss this issue in the Philippines, where giving asylum to Afghan refugees due to America's request. Yes, that's right, cohesions. Philippines will going to give asylum to Afghan asylum seekers or refugees due to America's request. Is it really true, cohesions, that the United States of America was asking the Philippine government to accept and accommodate Afghanistan asylum seekers? If that is the case, can the Philippines be obliged to compel to the U.S. request? We will discuss the issue that surrounds this hot topic on refugees from Afghanistan. What do you think? If you are a Filipino, would you support this request by the U.S. government? Well, the Philippines has to open its gates to the Afghanistan's asylum seekers or refugees. But before anything else, let me remind everyone to like this video, click on the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you will be informed whenever we are going or we are having our live stream like this, Issue 101, and of course our other shows on our social media accounts, especially on YouTube, our Senior Simon YouTube channel. And also, don't forget to follow and like our Senior Simon Issue 101 Facebook fan page. And as well as our at Senior Simon Twitter account. So, let's start with our show, Issue 101.
Issue 101.
Okay, once again, welcome to our show, Issue 101, with yours truly, Senior Simon. Today is Tuesday, June 20, 2023. But we have a new format for our Issue 101 before we are going to discuss our topic for this episode. And this will be the usual thing that will going to happen. We are going to show some videos, some posts in the social media, any social media platform, but this time from Twitter, for us to amuse or to ponder or to think about this post, videos or whatever post that interests yours. Okay, so this is the video that I want for us to watch, and probably we'll have a sort of lesson to uh or yeah, lesson to learn from this. Let's watch this video. So it doesn't have a sound actually. As you can see, a strong wind of course, and the person on this trampoline issues, he rode on the trampoline to, probably to save it from being blown away, but as you can see, he rode with it. The guy who wanted to save the trampoline flew with it. Okay, another video that we are going to watch. Okay, so here is another video. I don't know who they are and what they are doing. Perhaps you have any idea. Just leave on the comment box for an additional information on why these people in black sweatshirt are doing this.
Oh.
So why are they doing this? Co-issues? Perhaps you have any idea? You may put on the chat box right now.
Oh.
Okay. Let's see whether somebody chatted us giving away information on why these people are doing this. Anyway, let's move on to a final video before going on with our topic for this episode. Okay, this one is a very interesting clip that I viewed on the internet from Twitter. From Twitter. So let's watch this video, friends, co-issues. So as you can see from this video, there is a person destroying properties, and some folks are following that person, and as you can see, he will going to throw rocks at
oh fuck, watch out.
a house, a window, and notice what will going to happen on this guy who destroys this property. Look at that. Okay, so he was run over by a golf cart. So that's it, co-issues. That was what happened on that. Okay, so let me hang you for a while, cause I still have to share with you this news from a Twitter page. This one, this is in Tagalog, but I will just, for the sake of our friends who cannot understand Tagalog or Filipino, this news, it says here, are you excited for the comeback of TVJ at Legit Dabarkads, mga kapatid? Because this is in ABC5 or News 5 network. Watch out later, June 20, that's today. additional details of their new show in the Kapatid Network. And you can watch this at 4, and hopefully, I think some of you who are watching us right now will going to shift to that Kapatid Network for this announcement. So, that would be at 4 p.m. later. TVJ at the Barkads announced the details of their new show at TV5. But, co-issues, here goes. The latest news, by the way, in the network that the TVJ side of Itbulaga, the GMA side of Itbulaga is going to air its showtime. According to this news from GMA News Online, is its showtime airing on GMA's TV soon? Gina G. Is this what we think it is? On Facebook, GMA's GTV posted a teaser poster of its showtime along with a photo of its hosts, including Vice Ganda and Cortez Vong Navarro, Kim Chu and Jong Hilario among others. Gina, abangan yan. Or watch out for that. GTV wrote in the caption. GTV is a free-to-air television network owned by GMA. Meanwhile, Vice Ganda posted the same photo on his Instagram account and said, "Tara na, Gina kami." So, there are news that it will dampen the news show that will appear, or the TVJ, the Tito, Vic, and Joey side of Itbulaga, a new show on Kapatid Network, that's News 5 or ABC 5. This will compete that show. So I don't know, for those of you who are fans of on either personalities on either show, the It's Showtime or the Itbulaga on the TVJ faction. So that's just an added information on this show co-issues. So let's move on and start with our discussion for this episode on
Issue 101.
Now, on June 16, 2023, a news report was posted, and it happens also with the Senate inquiry on foreign affairs. In this news from Philstar Global, with the title "Philippines to Mall Plan to Temporarily Host Afghans," posted on June 16, 2023, it says the Philippine Senate's Foreign Relations Committee will discuss a plan on Friday. That's when was this? We'll discuss a plan on Friday to temporarily house thousands of Afghans awaiting resettlement in the United States. The Philippines received a request from the United States in October to temporarily host the Afghans. Manila's envoy to Washington told CNN Philippines in an interview Thursday. Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez said, under the proposal, Afghans who had worked for the U.S. government would be issued special immigration visas to be processed at a facility in the Philippines. He said, the information that we so far have received is that there are about 50,000, which includes the families of the Afghan citizens who worked with the United States government. Is schedule of Senate hearings for Friday noted that the Foreign Relations Committee would discuss proposed So the Agence France Presse contacted the Philippine Foreign Ministry, and it refused to comment on the plans. So the U.S. Embassy spokesman in Manila told reporters, "We do not comment on ongoing diplomatic discussions." The U.S. President Joe Biden administration remains committed to the thousands of brave Afghans who stood side by the United States over the course of the past 2 decades. The spokesman added, U.S. and allied forces pulled out of Afghanistan in 2021 to end America's longest war, launched after the September 11, 2001 attacks. Tens of thousands of Afghans fled their country in the chaotic evacuation of August 2021. Many of those who worked with the ousted Western-backed government arrived in the United States seeking resettlement under a special immigrant visa program. But thousands were also left behind, waiting for their visas to be processed. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers insist no harm will come to anyone who collaborated with Western powers or the former government, and are encouraging those who have left to return and help rebuild the country. So that's the news, Coesius, that the U.S. is asking, or was asking, the Philippine government to accommodate and accept Afghan asylum seekers to the Philippines. Now, in another news from the Philippine News Agency, government is evaluating U.S. request for Afghans' temporary stay in PH. The government is currently evaluating, this was in June 16, 2023 news report. The government is currently evaluating the United States request for President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to allow the temporary stay of Afghanistan refugees in the Philippines. It's a request from the United States government. The request is currently under evaluation according to Communications Secretary Chiloy Garafil. Garafil issued the statement in reaction to reports that U.S. President Joe Biden, during his meeting with Marcos in Washington, D.C. in May, raised the request to temporarily accept refugees fleeing from a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Speaking before the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee on Friday, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo said Biden briefly raised the issue with Marcos during the two leaders' bilateral meeting in May this year. The request was first made in October 2022 and is for pure processing of special immigration visas for Afghans and their families who formerly worked for the U.S. government and whose lives are in danger, according to Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez. Romualdez said the fleeing nationals would be vetted and will be repatriated back to Afghanistan, in the event that their entry request is declined. So initially, from this news report that we have read, Jose Manuel Romualdez have expressed the request of the United States of America, of the country of the United States of America, in which that these asylum seekers were working with the U.S. government when they were occupying Afghanistan. So these are the people that helped, that were or acted as interpreter. I saw the movie titled The Covenant, and that was one of the concern. No, in the Covenant, the movie The Covenant, it shows U.S. servicemen in Afghanistan with Afghan interpreters who helped them in communicating with the locals. And in that movie, let me search that movie first so that we will have you will know the context of that movie, The Covenant. Okay. The Covenant. Was it Covenant or the Covenant? There was another Covenant film. Okay, let me search on that. What was that with Gallenhal? Covenant. I forgot with that. But I was able to watch that movie, Covenant, Afghan interpreters. Afghanistan interpreter. Okay. Yeah, the Covenant. Guys, okay, so this is the show. This is the movie that I was able to watch. Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, so this is the movie that feature Afghan interpreter, which it stars Jake Gyllenhaal. This is a movie by Guy Ritchie. So the movie is about the relationship between an American serviceman in Afghanistan with the interpreter who saved the life of that American army, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. Because at that there was an operation in the movie in which Jake Gyllenhaal was shot, but he was saved with the effort from their Afghan interpreter. And when he was discharged, because he was hospitalized due to his injuries, he wanted to retrieve that Afghan interpreter who was hiding, because when that happened, when that Afghan interpreter, what was his name in here in this movie? Let me check. Ahmed. So because of that thing, because of what happened to them, they were able to escape the pursuing Afghan army, and they were able to return to their camp. So Ahmed, the Afghan interpreter, was doing his best to save the life of, in this case, Army Sergeant John Kenley, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, so that or saved his life. But they became popular. They became known because of what they did. So what happened is, after Sergeant Kenley came back to the US, to America, because of his injury, after knowing that Ahmed was hiding because he's already very known in Afghanistan for what he did, but he is also the number one enemy of the Taliban. So that was the movie all about. So the story is that Jake Gyllenhaal, Sergeant Kenley, in his character Sergeant Kenley, want to retrieve Ahmed. But the United States didn't do their best or whatever they can do in order to save the family of Ahmed, to retrieve them and to what we call this, to bring them to the US. So as the movie went on, they were Jake Gyllenhaal returned to Afghanistan and was able to made contact with Ahmed and his family, and there was shooting that happened in a dam because that was their point of their what they call this, a location that they will be retrieved. And so the story ends. Both of them survived. The family of Ahmed were able to survive, and they were able to come to the US. But I think this movie was fictional. I think I don't know. You may leave a comment if it is or it was based on an actual event happened. So I think it was based on an actual event because at the end of the movie there are pictures that were displayed, but it doesn't relate to the actual people or character of the movie. So I assume that it was just based on actual event that happened. So going back, so that was the news or the request by the US government to have or to process or to allow Afghan asylum seekers to stay in the Philippines while their immigration visas are being processed. So the request, according to this news, was first made on or in October 2022. So Romualdez, the ambassador to the US, said the fleeing nationals would be vetted and will be repatriated back to Afghanistan in the event that their entry request is declined. He, however, clarified that the chances of this happening is about 0.0001%. On Tuesday, Cagayan de Oro City 2nd District Representative Rufus Rodriguez expressed support for the U.S. request, noting that the plan, if approved by Marcos, may not be new. Okay? So, Rodriguez recalled that in September 2021, then Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. disclosed that the Philippines had taken an Afghan refugee, women and children after the fall of Afghanistan to Taliban. Kabul fell under the rule of Taliban in August 2021, prompting a chaotic pull-out of American forces days before the U.S. completed its withdrawal after a 20-year in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Senator Francis Tolentino sees nothing wrong about accommodating Afghan employees, but emphasized that it should undergo proper processing. So, because these are the stand of some of our politicians, especially our lawmakers, because there are many times in the past that the Philippines was a country where refugees made a midway travel to their final destination. We are a midway station, so to speak. So, like during Quezon time, President Quezon, in which Jews were taken by the Philippines during World War II. But of course, we all know that after that time, the Philippines fell under Japanese occupation. So that's one thing. Now, in another news related to this topic, it really said nothing wrong with taking. So, according to Enrile, that it's up to the government. I'm sure people will be talking about these issues. My personal position is I agree because it is temporary, not permanent residents. It's possible, why not? They are not permanent residents. So the former Senate President said the U.S. has a program to distribute refugees all over the world, adding that the Philippines would just serve as a transit to refugees being resettled. Okay, now we must have a context of who are these Afghans that have or being requested by the United States of America to be accepted into the country in the Philippines, and the Philippines will be used as a transit because they will be accepted, as what Ambassador Romualdez have said, that it is 0.0001 the probability that their special visa or visas will be denied. It's 0.0. It's very rare. So it's 0.001, so meaning it's very rare that their visas will be denied. And according to him, and according to Ambassador Romualdez, it's around 50,000. So, in other words, that would require a lot of spaces for them to be accommodated. So, where those Afghan asylum seekers would be accommodated, that we didn't know. Now, let me clarify that the Philippines is one of those who agreed in the 1951 conventions or 1951 conventions, Geneva Convention, that tackle about refugees. So in this file from the United Nations Human Rights Council, refugee is defined as person that already left their country. In section 1 or in section A or section 1, so this is the copy of the 1951 Geneva Convention on refugees. So it defined who are the considered refugee. So the definition, Article 1, definition of the term refugee. So it says here that a refugee is found in fear of being persecuted, race, or religion, is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country, his country of origin, no? Is outside the country, take note, as a result of events occurring before January 1, 1951 and owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable to or owing to such fear is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country, his country of origin, or who not having a nationality and being outside the country of his former habitual residence. So in other words, these people that will be transited to the country is not actually refugees. That is why I refuse to use the term refugees. Instead, I prefer to use the term asylum seekers. Because they are there still in Afghanistan. And by the way, take note of this, that these people, 50,000 as what had been revealed by Ambassador Romualdez, 50,000. That's plenty, as I've said earlier. They are still in Afghanistan, and they were used by the United States during their occupation in Afghanistan. So of course, even though the Taliban said that they will not hurt those people, they will not be prosecuted, but I don't believe, because the Talibans are well known to, to make statements just for cosmetic. They are known for that. They promise they promise that they will protect human rights, women's rights. But lately there are lots of talks about, breaking those promises that they've made when they return to their administration of Afghanistan. Now, in this news from the Manila Times, in the news titled "Afghans to Arrive Once PH Grants U.S. Request," some 1,000 to 1,500 Afghans per batch will be allowed entry to the Philippines once the government accedes to a request from the United States government to use the country as a processing site for them before they could be finally repatriated to the U.S. 1,000 to 1,500 Afghans per batch. So if we accept what Ambassador Romualdez have said, that it is around 50,000, so it will be in 50 batches. Speaking before a public hearing by the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs led by Senator Maria Imelda Josefa Aimee Marcos, Philippine Ambassador to the U.S. Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez confirmed that the U.S. government has indeed requested the Philippines to accommodate an undetermined number of Afghans to enter and be temporarily allowed to stay in the Philippines. Ambassador Romualdez also clarified that the Afghans are not refugees. So that is why I've mentioned earlier that these are not refugees. Therefore, because in the 1951 Convention co-issues, according to the agreed 1951 Convention, Geneva Conventions on Refugees, that no country should oppose the entry of refugees. They should be accepted, they should be received. But in this case, as Ambassador Romualdez have revealed, that these Afghans are not refugees because these are former employees of the U.S. government. They work for the U.S. government. Therefore, the country have a choice. The Philippines, I mean, has a choice to either refuse or to limit the entry of these Afghan asylum seekers. Again, let me clarify. Based on the statement by Ambassador Romualdez, these are not refugees. Instead, they are asylum seekers because they are employed by the U.S. government. They were employed by the U.S. government during the U.S. occupation in Afghanistan. Now, we will not wonder why the Philippines is one of the recipient of this so-called asylum seekers, because aside by alliance, I think the Philippines is one of the countries allied to the US that can easily be bullied by United States. I'm sorry to say that, but I think that's the reality. The Philippines is the easiest country to be bullied by the US. Because this problem in the US, actually, co-issues happened because of this. In this news from VOA, lawmakers failed to pass Afghan Adjustment Act by year's end in December 2022 publication. According to this news, a major bill that would provide a pathway to permanent residency for tens of thousands of Afghan evacuees has not yet drawn enough support to pass Congress, but lawmakers Tuesday proposed 4,000 additional visas for Afghans. Democratic Senator Jean Shaheen, a leading proponent for Afghan evacuees, said on statement Tuesday, she said, "While I'm frustrated that partisan obstruction necessitated an 11th hour solution, I'm relieved that we have a deal to extend the authorization of the Afghan SIV program and that this bill provided an additional 4,000 visas. An estimated 80,000. Wow. Estimated 80,000 Afghans fled the country during the chaotic U.S. military exit from Afghanistan in August 2021. Many were eligible for SIV, that's Special Immigration Visas, for their work for the United States, but were unable to obtain legal permission to come to the U.S. through the famously complicated and slow system of the U.S. Instead, they were granted a 2-year temporary humanitarian parole. If passed, that AAA would have provided Afghan evacuees with a pathway to permanent residency in the United States before that humanitarian parole expires. They had broad support among Senate Democrats and some Republicans. Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal said, "Our bipartisan bill fulfills a moral obligation to the men and women who sacrificed in support of the U.S. mission helping American troops and diplomats. These Afghan allies worked as journalists, translators, non-profit workers, guards, and interpreters, as well as other dangerous professions that put their and their families' lives on the line. This effort is urgent as their situation is increasingly desperate. These at-risk Afghans deserve a clear path to citizenship." So that is why the Philippines actually got involved in this, because the U.S. didn't do their job. The U.S. lawmakers didn't do their job. The U.S. government didn't do their job. So that is why the Philippines is part of this problem, has become part of this problem issues. But the recent development of this news with regards to giving asylum to Afghans, the Vice President of the Philippines said this: Sara Duterte opposes plan for PH to host Afghan refugees. In this news report, Vice President Sara Duterte has opposed a U.S. request to bring in 50,000 Afghans fleeing their Taliban-led country to the Philippines prior to their relocation to the United States, citing possible security threats and violations of the country's sovereignty. Duterte, who is also the Education Secretary, stated her position in an April 20 letter to the Anti-Terrorism Council, or ATC. Education Undersecretary Michael Wislipoa told senators on Friday at the opening of an inquiry into the controversial plan. The U.S. request was disclosed last week by Senator Amy Marcos, chair of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, who filed a resolution calling for the inquiry. Duterte has or had raised vehement objection and opposition to the proposal in its entirety, according to POA. He said she was concerned about the possibility that students will be caught in a crossfire should local terrorists supporting the Taliban launch attacks against the Afghans brought into the country. We feel that this might have risk of further exacerbating an already unstable situation as regards the local terrorist groups in some areas in the country. He said the ATC asked Duterte as Education Secretary to comment on the U.S. request. Aside from the security threats, POA said the Vice President cited sovereignty issues in allowing the United States to vet Afghans who would be flying in from Kabul. He said the Philippines had the right to determine who could enter the country and who could stay, whether temporarily or permanently. He said, in the proposal, it seems that the vetting process will be done by the United States. Therefore, this is an interference into our exclusive determination as to who can enter our country. I think this Vice President Sara Duterte is correct on this one. Right? Because it is the US who will select, who will vet, who will perform the vetting process. So, therefore, they have the full rights or authority to allow, to permit people to enter into the country in which it is a violation of our sovereignty. Right? Because, co-issues, it should be that our country will do the selection or to make the preference as to who would be the what we call this, the people to be allowed to enter into the country. Because in this case, the Philippines will be a halfway house, in that case, before entering to the US, but it is the US that will select who among those 50,000 possible to be accommodated in the country. And that would be a violation on the country's sovereign right, because this is our country, this is our land, and we should have the voice, the decision of who among these people should enter into the country. Another one who opposed this request that the country will just, agreed to the request of the US is the former president. In his statement, or in this news report, former President Rodrigo Duterte, known for his strong stance on national security, advised President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to carefully consider and thoroughly analyze the implications before making a decision. There is also another one in here. Think twice. Former President Rodrigo Duterte has advised President Marcos to think twice about heeding the U.S. request for the Philippines to take in their supporters in Afghanistan. He said, I would rather not accept if it is a demand. These Americans, if that happened during my incumbency, I would throw bull at them. You would demand from me. Who are you? In the meantime, I think the Philippines should not give in. I would like to say this to the President to take his time, but I would rather not accept if it is demand.
Issue 101.
So our take on this issue, co-issues. As you have seen, humanitarian reason. Yes, there is a humanitarian for the sake of humanitarian reason. We should allow this asylum seeker. But as what former President Duterte have said, it should not be demanded from us. in the case of the point of Vice President Sara Duterte, that if the Americans will be the one who will vetted or who will select, who will determine the people who would enter the country, that would be an intrusion to our sovereignty. So I don't know if this will be settled sooner, but I hope so. Because my point of view is this, that these asylum seekers should be checked. And of course, though, according to news report, according to statements provided, that the American government will be the one who will shoulder the expenses of these Afghan asylum seekers. But security-wise also, it should be considered. Yes, because according to Vice President Sara Duterte, it will also be a risk, especially we have, insurgents that might be allied or allies to Taliban, and they might cause chaos in the country.
Issue 101, Senior Simon.
So that will be all for this episode of Issue 101. And by the way, let me remind everyone for the next episode of Sola Scriptura that will going to happen tomorrow. So around 9:30 in the evening Philippine Standard Time. So watch out for that. And so that's all for this episode of Issue 101. Once again, don't forget to please like, subscribe, share if possible. Help us grow, help this channel to grow, our YouTube as well. Once again, this is yours truly,
Senior Simon.
a firm and courageous confidant of truth, an agent of light and clarity to our darkened and unclear controversies in our society and its people. Will say, a well-informed person is advantageous. Take care, God bless you all, and all praises belongs to our Lord Jesus Christ. Bye-bye.
And that's all for Issue 101. Hopefully the concerned parties will act on the issue. Until next time, thank you for being with us.